Hello, everyone. It's Tommy Lee Hayes Brown with Rito Recognition. I'm excited to be here on live on location. We are in Toronto, and I'm with my friend David Creelman. Say hello.
I am David Creelman, and I'm also excited to be here. At any moment, you never know if 200 people are going to walk by because we're at the HRPA convention.
Absolutely. The theme of this year is Power Up, and perfect theme for my guest because he helps us power up our HR initiatives, especially around employee recognition, strategy, leadership development. David, you've done it all. Why don't you give the audience a short introduction of yourself?
So the micro introduction. So again, David Creelman. I lead Creelman Research, and I do a lot of research and writing and consulting around different parts of the HR space. And I really got interested in recognition from the analytics point of view, and that led me into the whole world of reader recognition.
I thank you for mentioning analytics because I've noticed at the conference this year, and there's got to be thousands of people here, that analytics is one of the ways I'm seeing a trend. People are powering up their employee recognition programs and employee engagement and just general organizational results overall with analytics. One thing I always say to people is employee recognition is no longer a nice to have, but it's a need to have. Now, we got affiliated with you, David, when you interviewed some of our employees.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the background, so, I actually met with their head of analytics, and I was so impressed with what they were doing that I came to visit Rito. And then I realized that it's not just numbers. In fact, it's not mainly numbers. It's all about the people there and how they've created this great workplace. So when I was writing a chapter in a book about great workplaces, I said, well, I know one. I got an easy one to do because I've actually been there. And I thought, well, if you really want to learn about a great workplace, you don't just talk to the CEO. I wanted to talk to the people who are actually on the workplace, and that's where I got the best insight into what it takes to make a really effective a place that's fun to work, good to work, but also gets business results, and that's what I really wanted to focus on.
And you found it. So you found some employees, and you did the tour and all that of the workplace, and that's why we titled this The Good Workplace, because we just wanted to make sure that people, well, we think it's a good workplace, and it's great to get that validation from someone who doesn't work there. What is a good workplace that you've seen? Because you've talked to companies all over the world, and what's one or two things that they all have in common?
What they all have in common, first of all, is sincerity. Mm-hmm. So it's not that they've done something clever. I guess maybe that's it. You might think, oh, well, they've done something clever. We've got them special HR program. And yeah, they do have HR programs, but it's the sincerity with which it's delivered that really makes a difference. And the other thing is that the program is not divorced from the business. So it's not, oh, HR, you guys go out and make a great workplace. We're going to pump out widgets or audits or whatever it is the company is doing. It's HR working in conjunction with the leadership team. And the reason you're having a great workplace is partly because it's just a value, but it's intimately tied in with the idea that we're going to get better results if we have a better workplace.
So I like how you say that, it's not, they don't run separately. So, a good workplace is not, you got to pump out the widget. You got to have to think about the business, but it's not an HR initiative.
That's right.
It's a company culture, if I may translate what you're saying, that, it's an overall strategy that involves everyone, no matter what you do in the company.
Yeah, and what's great is, again, I say, I learned from talking to the actual employees on the workforce, and their stories weren't about, oh, HR did this great thing. It's about my boss did this great thing, even though I'd only been there a few weeks, or the CEO did this great thing. Whether I've been there a year or 10 years or 3 months, those are the stories that come up. So, again, it was coming from people throughout the organization and their peers, by the way. It's not just top down; it's side to side, and it was that combination of things, as well as, by the way, a smart and effective HR department.
So if I could just veer off a second, because you keep making me think about things that actually, and you got to forgive us. We're live on location, so you might hear a little background noise, but hey, it is what it is. We're at a big conference, and it's a very busy conference. So, but you said about peer-to-peer recognition, and that's something that I think a lot of companies do not think about, how important it is to give, most people just think about, I'll use myself, for example. Before I got into the industry, I just thought recognition was something your boss did for you on your birthday or service anniversary. And what we find out is that the peer-to-peer recognition can be, if not more so, equally important. And when I say peer-to-peer recognition, well, why don't you describe to me what you mean by peer-to-peer recognition?
Yeah, it can be a very specific program, right? So you can set up something, usually using some software that allows people to recognize. But I think, again, when we start from sincerity point of view, it doesn't start with the tool. It starts with, we have a workplace where we encourage people to celebrate each other's successes and, to say something about it. And whether it's, you could just have a bulletin board where somebody puts up a note, or you can have some kind of official program. But fundamentally, the idea is you're encouraging people on the team to celebrate other people on the team who've done something, that's good. Not. It doesn't, by the way, we're not saying, oh yeah, the company was on fire and this person dragged us out to safety. It's not dramatic things. It's that. We had a problem with this machine, and it wasn't this person's department, but they came over and they helped us fix it because they knew how urgent it was. It was just day-to-day stuff where somebody does something that you say, you know what, that was the right thing to do, and I want to give that person a pat on the back.
Yeah, and that's that can be really, really paramount to the way I think about going into work every day. Because we have managers, but we spend, I think, most of us spend time with our peers, and it's very, very important that we feel engaged with them. So perfect. I'm getting ready to bring on a couple employees. I'm really excited. The first time we've done this, we're going to bring on a couple of Rideau employees that you spoke with, and get their take on a few questions and why they get out of bed every morning so cheerful and so happy to come to work. And even those days, we're all human, that you may not feel like coming to work, but they do it anyway. And they've all been recognized for being that peer-to-peer, for providing that peer-to-peer recognition to each other, recognition with our customers. It all ties together. It's all important, all valuable to the whole employee experience. So they'll be joining us here any second. And I just want to make sure that I think Ria's there, and want to make sure that she can get on. But while she's getting on, I want to ask your opinion about one thing. We were talking this morning to a vendor about the importance of understanding when things happen. That specifically, we were talking about palliative care.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep. Remember that vendor?
Yes.
And we were talking about palliative care and how sometimes managers don't. And I was actually shocked when she told us that employees needed some time off.
Yeah.
Of course, sick parent, and the manager said, well, basically, tough. We got work to do. You can't take the time off. And I was just shocked.
Yeah.
That would never happen at Rideau. And I hope that wouldn't happen at the majority of the companies out there where you have a very sick parent you have to take care of, but you can't take the day off because there's a deadline. And that's where that peer-to-peer recognition and help works. Like, look, I can't work today. You might have to work double, but I know sometime down the road I can return the favor. And what was your thought when you were talking to that vendor?
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you something about that vendor that particularly relates maybe to the world of recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? Here you have a situation where a sick parent,
mm-hmm.
and you realize that managers may not know how to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with recognition. Some managers think you don't need to give recognition,
mm-hmm.
Or they don't know how to give recognition, or it's just not top of mind to them. So things that are maybe not that complicated, but nonetheless, managers may not have had experience dealing with it, and may deal with it, and hence may handle it badly. So it's not that what the manager needs to do is extraordinarily complicated, but it's not going to happen unless you provide a certain support and encouragement. And the senior leaders running role modeling and they say, hey, this is how we do things here.
Absolutely. Are we on? Rhea,
Yes, hi, Tommy Lee and David. How are you?
Ah, there you go.
I'm sorry my mic was not working. I've been creepily listening in this whole time trying to speak, but sorry, it's just working now.
Well,
How are you?
Rhea. You're fired.
No,
You're fired.
no, not from Rideau. It's too nice of a place to work.
Great to see you. So Rhea is in our home office in Montreal.
Yes.
And again, we're in Toronto, so thank you, technology.
Yes.
And so and this is a very loose conversation, Rhea. There are no wrong answers, okay?
Of course.
I just want to make sure you know that. I want to, let me ask you a question. So those days that you don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning,
Yeah.
but you come to work and give your all anyway. And I can testify Rhea does that because I work with Rhea in the marketing department. Yep. And so always has that same smile you see right now on her face, no matter what's going on. I wish I was.
Tommy Lee, you're making me blush.
It's the truth, though. It's the absolute truth.
By the way, this is some peer-to-peer
recognition.
Yeah, and you
this
know
is great peer-to-peer recognition.
And it sounds like a joke. This is not a program, that HR implemented. We're not going on some software thing to exchange gift cards.
Right.
It's an atmosphere where employees just have learned to say nice things about each other and to notice when someone's doing a good job. And this is it. We can end the webinar now. We've now
absolutely. So where I was going, so what makes you get out of bed? And those days you really don't feel like it, or you get a bad customer, or you've had a bad day, you goofed up and whatever. What makes you keep going?
It's really knowing that when you come into work, whatever is happening with life as it happens, knowing that your employees or coworkers are going to have your back, your team is here to help you and not hinder you, and that's just a vibe, if I can say, an atmosphere that exists in Rideau that I see every day coming in, making it easy when it's not that easy to come into work.
Right.
And work, actually deliver something well as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want people to understand, Rideau and other places like us, we're not perfect. We're not saying, we float on clouds of heaven every day. At Rideau, we have, any company, we have our good days, bad days, good quarters, bad quarters, good years, bad years, whatever those metrics are that you determine, the key performance indicators that you're watching. What I am saying, though, overall, you put everything on the scale and it tips heavily in the direction of a good place to work.
Yeah.
It's a good place to work. And you're what generation are you? Are you Gen Z? Or?
I think I'm technically a millennial.
Okay, millennial.
I think I'm technically a millennial, but
guess your age. You don't have to say your age.
No,
but,
it's fine. But I think I fall in that bracket, if you will. And
okay.
Yeah. I just want to say we have Anik here who's joined us into the webinar. I can see her in my Zoom. So hi, Anik. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, Anik. Oh, there she is. Hey,
once she starts talking.
Yeah. So, Anik, you know me. Rhea, David.
Yes. Hi. Nice to meet you.
And so, why don't you answer the same question, and then I'll go into my speech.
I was listening to the answer.
So the question, I know you just joined us, so I'm going to repeat the question. And I was just saying, what gets you out of bed? Those days, and don't say you don't have them, where you just don't feel like going to work. We all have those days where, or you're at work, you get a bad customer. What makes you go ahead and muddle through with a smile on your face because you are one of our employees that we depend on as a Rideau ambassador. Well, actually, all of them we depend on to be a Rideau ambassador. Somebody who does the job, does it pleasantly, great to work with, whether you're talking about your manager, people that you manage, or a peer. What keeps you going, especially those times when it's a little difficult?
Oh, definitely. We have those moments. I wouldn't say often because most of our clients are super pleasant to work with and we've built such a wonderful relationship. But of course, everybody has those days where, staying in because of the storm outside or something it would have been better. coming into the office it's the people. It really, I don't think I could go much further than just saying the people. We have such an amazing group that we work with. I have some employees who have the opportunity to work from home permanently. And most of them come in at least 1 or 2 days a week just because they want to see the people they work with. They enjoy the staff.
That's saying a lot.
Yes, when you see the building from the outside, it looks like nothing. But the minute you come through the walls and you see Peter's paintings on the walls and people walking down the hall with their smiles on their face, then everybody is happy to be here. So it makes you part of the team, makes you part of the family.
So then it helps smooth over those rough edges, that come our way.
Absolutely. And it's also sharing those moments with the people you work with. Sometimes you're having a bad day. Well, taking a 5-minute break and going to the cafeteria and sitting down, and it's like a little therapy session all at once.
How long have you been with us, Annick?
16 years.
How long have you been with Rito?
16 years this year.
16?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And why do you stay?
Exactly for those reasons.
Because you're in Montreal, there's plenty of opportunities for jobs.
Absolutely.
It's a big city. There's plenty of opportunities. You are a great employee. I'm sure your CV looks great on paper, but you choose to stay. Why is that?
For those reasons. It's definitely the people. I would be very afraid that the grass is not greener somewhere else. I wouldn't want to risk that. Yeah, I wouldn't risk it for, it would have to be a whole lot of more money because I wouldn't do it for just a little. I wouldn't take that chance.
Yeah, and we spend so much time in our workplaces. Why not choose a workplace that's fun?
Yeah,
a place
absolutely.
where you feel engaged, where you like the people that you actually work with.
Yeah, I spend more time here than I do at home, so I have to enjoy being here.
Most of us do.
Yeah.
And something I wanted to our listeners, one of the things I said was I was like taking a 5-minute break, because again, we're not doing this just because we're a kindergarten. We're doing this because we want to have business performance. You can't take 2 hours to have a therapy session with your colleague, but you can take 5 minutes, and that's going to lead to higher productivity, through the days, through the weeks, and through the 16 years you're there. And to me, this is one of the secrets, is that this stuff doesn't take a lot of time. You just have to value it enough, and the organization has to value it enough that people do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It takes just 5 minutes sometimes to, start your day fresh.
Now, have you guys, either Rhea or Annick, have you worked at places where maybe the engagement to each other wasn't as good as it is at Rito? Or have you been in situations where you've had managers who, he just doesn't get it, she just doesn't get it, and because I know I have, I started off, my first job was a grocery store. And, sometimes when you cut your teeth somewhere, you kind of measure every manager, because that was my first manager. And I was there a couple of years. I started at 16. When I graduated high school, I left. And I just thought that's the way work was. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, because it wasn't a good place to work. And so sometimes I'm always thinking of, let's call him Roger, that manager that I was always comparing everyone to Roger. And thankfully, every manager wasn't like Roger, or the flip. If Roger was a great manager, you're going to, compare them to Roger, the great manager, and you'll be sadly disappointed when everybody doesn't measure up. So I think it's, one of the things I just always are careful of is like, this manager may be great, but the next one may not, or vice versa. You have to always, keep your mind on the manager isn't everything, but the manager is a large part of our employee experience. And I would venture to say, depending on the organization, it's the main part. You've always heard people don't leave companies, they leave managers. They leave their manager, which is why that part is so important. Can either of you share any thoughts about management and how important that is? Whether you're a manager or your manager, current or past, how important that manager level is to the overall making the business a good place to work?
Yeah, I don't mind starting with my own experience, being that I've been in Rito less for sure than an Anik you have. I've been only here for 2 years, and I've had the greatest fortune of having some of the best and most dynamic managers that I've experienced in my career so far. And I really think that the real discerning factor between a good manager and someone who's a good manager is involving and making sure their team, in fact, feels like a team. I think that there are so many places where work is dynamic and competitive, and you need to be on your A game a lot of the time, and that can foster some competition or some tensions within the team. But if your manager is making a good effort to do that peer-to-peer recognition and also do that, we're a team, we're in this together, it makes projects and intense situations that much easier.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. I'm a little bit older, so I've had maybe more experience, but I've been at Rito for so long that I haven't had that many jobs previously. But I've been fairly lucky. Most of them have been very generous and with their time and their experience. But I think the most important, I would say, is the respect that you give your employees as well. I have found that everybody here has been very respectful and has been, understanding of their time, their experience. I found in the past, even though the companies I worked for were wonderful, my immediate manager was not necessarily as respectful as they should have been. Some of them barely knew the names of the employees they had. They maybe had too many. I don't know what the reasoning for not knowing who they were, but here this is so not the issue. I must have over 200 employees here, and everybody knows everybody by name, and we know about their lives, and we make sure that everybody feels very part of the family.
Beautiful, great. Any comments on the manager connection?
What I'm interested in is, again, we talk about respect. Can you give me an example of somebody showing respect, and maybe an example of somebody, either real or imagined, where you've seen somebody didn't quite show the level of respect that would be ideal?
Thinking.
Well, while you're thinking, let me answer that. I had a manager once that signed me up for a management development program that I had to travel for. Signed me up and said, "These dates, be here." Well, I was like, I can't go. I have an important my baby was getting christened. And I said, I can't go. I had family coming in from out of town. And that manager, I felt, had a chip on his shoulder with me ever since. And which really wasn't fair. You didn't ask me if the dates were convenient for me. And it was a total lack of respect. And I started my job hunt that day.
Oh, yeah. That's the kind of story that, again, so many of these things, it's every manager, I don't think you're going to find too many managers to say, oh, I treat my employees without respect. So they do it unconsciously. And they don't realize that it's really relatively little everyday things like, well, before I sign this person up for something, maybe I should ask them if they're interested, if it's suitable, if it's possible. As I say, it's quite simple. And I did talk to some people about Rito, about respect, and I said, well, what do you mean by that? It's relationship. Oh, well, they know my name. Like my boss's boss knows my name. And I think, what, that's it? Is that all it takes? He goes, well, you know what? At other places, it wasn't like that.
No.
Absolutely. And then the name is important. That's my identity. Especially if I have a name that's not common.
Yeah.
And you don't take the time to pronounce it right or ask me how it's pronounced. Just a total disrespect. And even in my example, even if the dates were free, it's still a lack of respect because you signed me up without asking me.
Right.
Number one, is this something I wanted to do? So the manager thought, well, I was just trying to help you, recognize you by sending you to this program, but it fell flat in its face because you didn't involve me in that decision.
I think I used the name as the example at first because I think it was something that annoyed me very much with a previous employer. My name is Anik, and he kept insisting that it was Onyx. And
like you don't know how your name is pronounced.
But I worked for them for 3 years. It was like, how could after 3 years you still don't know my name?
That's it's a little funny but sad.
Yeah.
It's more sad than anything that you're going to pronounce your name the way you want to, not the way my mama calls me. You know, to me that's the test. What's your mama call you? Okay, that's the way you pronounce it.
Well, I think if people have a name that's not that you have a hard time pronouncing or you don't know what the pronunciation is, I don't think it's disrespectful to ask them to pronounce their name for you and then just,
No, that shows respect.
Yes, exactly.
That shows respect.
Yeah.
And I'm a big stickler on that. My name is Tommy Lee, very easy. But you know, my last name is hyphenated. Don't forget my hyphen. You know? It's a little thing. Or don't put Tommy's hyphen Lee. That's not it. That's not what my mama named me Tommy Space Lee. You know? So, you know, that's it just shows respect when you say, I would never be offended if someone said, you know, how do you pronounce your name, or what do you go? Is it Tommy? Is it Thomas? You know, Thomas is not on my birth certificate. You might as well call me George. That's not my name. So, Rhea, do you have any comments about respect?
No particular examples at this point in time, but I think of hearing you speak, Anik, your stories, and Tommy Lee, yours as well, I think really it's just respecting your employees means treating them not just like employees, treating them also like the individual people that they're coming in here as people, you know, and they deserve to have their name known and pronounced correctly, and it is part of their identity, and it should be important, and it should be something that's discussed and referenced in the day.
And by the way, that's another thing that came up in the discussions of Rito and elsewhere, by the way. Even, you know, Jack Welch from GE is seen as a real hard, tough guy. But he actually made a point of knowing everything about the 300 employees who were closest to him, right? And this would carry down through the organization, even to the point of knowing the name of their cat. Wow. So here's tough, mean Jack Welch, who's going to know somebody a couple of levels down is going to know the name of their cat. Because it's just like part of the respect is not just seeing them as an effective employee who's delivering some output and seeing their goals, but they're a person who's got a cat, or they've got a hobby, or they bought a new house, or whatever it is. Just having that personal side as well as the business side.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're going to wrap up here. Great. Thank you guys for joining us. I know you guys are busy. You know, but I really appreciate you two taking the time to join David and I here. Any last comments from anybody? I mean, anything you want?
Yeah, all I want to say is that we can get it so up in our head, particularly when I put my HR consulting hat on, it's all theories and abstract. And then you get down, you talk to people, you go, wait a minute, this is, the answers to good HR and a good workplace lie by talking to the people in the workplace, and you find the answers aren't that complicated. And that's what's so exciting about it. You know, you're not making huge demands on your employer. You're making very everyday demands. And if they deliver that to you, then it's a good workplace.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So are we still there?
Yeah, we're still here. I think
okay. All right.
If you guys can hear us, and your connection may be because you're in a conference.
Yeah. It dropped out there for a second.
Oh, no worries at all. Well, but thank you so much,
well,
David, for the webinar and having us on as well. I really appreciate you taking the time to ask us some questions. And
not a problem.
Oh, I think you're on mute. Tommy Lee. David. Okay. Oh, they're on mute. Okay. Well, this was, I'll sign us off. Thank you, David and Tommy Lee, for this very informative webinar. Anik, thank you so much for taking the time to come. I know you were busy today, but it was very informative listening to you. And to the audience, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next webinar series. Stay tuned.